Welcome back to Wrestling World. Today we'll be going over the new comments from Seth Rollins, why Drew McIntyre is harassing Vince McMahon, and much more. Before we dive into all the wrestling news, make sure you're subscribed with all notifications on and hit that like button. So let's start things off with Seth Rollins breaking his silence. Although Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch had their relationship on full display on WWE television in 2019, things were much different for their on-screen relationship in 2020, with Becky Lynch being a babyface champion and Seth Rollins transitioning into this heel messiah character. Their characters were understandably kept apart and didn't interact with each other at all this year. WWE did catch up recently with Seth Rollins, and he provided another update on Becky Lynch. Seth Rollins had this to say: "She's doing really well. Our due date is fast approaching. It's crazy to think we'll be parents soon. I'm sure she's ready to get back to work just like we all are. But yeah, she's been so incredible through the entire pregnancy. In our regular WWE schedule, we're always traveling and never get to be home. And with my fiance's pregnancy, I've been able to spend a lot of time at home with her. I wouldn't have been able to do this on our regular schedule. The timing of that worked out really well. It's a nice break for me, both physically and mentally." Seth Rollins had a great point there. The timing couldn't have been any better for them. Becky gets to relax and stay home through all the madness going on in the world right now, and Seth Rollins gets to spend more time at home with her since WWE isn't on tour at all. Things would have been so much harder for them if Seth Rollins was overseas for a couple of weeks with WWE. So things were very convenient for them, given WWE's current schedule. Of course, Seth Rollins is expected to have a few weeks off to spend with his firstborn child. Like Rollins explained, Becky Lynch's due date is rapidly approaching and is literally next week. So the excitement is growing there for Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. Seth also talked about Becky Lynch's excitement to get back to work, and it's safe to assume that all of her fans are just as excited to see her back in action, doing what she does best. So we can't wait to have both Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins back in WWE. Stay tuned for more updates on this story in the coming days. Drew McIntyre is harassing Vince McMahon, but why? Drew McIntyre recently spoke with the Scotsman, and Drew talked about a serious issue that the fans have been discussing for years now, and that's the fact that the UK never gets to host any WWE pay-per-view events, which is true, and is something that fans have pointed out for a long time now. The UK usually hosts 2 episodes of Raw and SmackDown per year. You compare those 2 episodes to the hundreds of episodes and huge WWE events that the United States gets to host, and you can see why fans find it a bit weird and unfair. Not to mention that the UK crowds are up there on the list as one of the best pro wrestling crowds in the world. Of course, you have your New York and Philadelphia crowds, which are always something special, but the UK crowds always bring their A game. They're always full of energy, since they only get to see the WWE live for a handful of shows per year. So at least we get to see that crowd for a few times every year. But there's still one big issue. WWE hasn't given the UK crowd the honor of hosting a huge pay-per-view event. Fans have been pushing for a UK WrestleMania for a long time, but after that didn't seem likely, fans brought their expectations down a bit. They've been asking to just host a regular pay-per-view event. The fans aren't alone. WWE champion Drew McIntyre is leading the charge and also wants the UK to get a pay-per-view. He had this to say: "The UK has some of the most passionate, loyal fans. The superstars look forward to it because they don't understand why the crowds are so rowdy. We have football crowds who chant, go mental, get drunk. It's home for me. But for the rest of the superstars, they think it's cool to get over. My goal is to make it happen in future. And it's going to happen because I'm going to harass Vince McMahon until it does. I talk a lot of crap online with Tyson Fury and Chris Sutton in particular, but whatever it takes to get the UK a significant PPV, I'll do. I have plans that I won't mention publicly, but the big one I will. And the one that will happen is getting a WWE PPV back to the UK. So, quite the big reveal there by Drew McIntyre. He said that getting a WWE pay-per-view event back to the UK is on his list of top priorities. He also teased that he has some other big plans on the way as well, but he wasn't ready to talk about those plans quite yet. This is something that all the fans want. UK fans obviously want this to happen because they don't get to attend a pay-per-view unless they travel overseas. Even the other WWE fans all over the world wouldn't mind seeing this because the UK crowd knows how to bring the energy. Would you like to see the UK host a WWE pay-per-view event? The pandemic has obviously destroyed the WWE in terms of their usual touring schedule and the entire setup of having live, sold-out crowds in attendance for their shows. Stephanie McMahon recently spoke with Forbes and gave some insights onto what's going on behind the scenes and what led to the creation of something like the WWE ThunderDome. She had this to say: "And without them, the fans, it's just not the same. Our ratings fell off. We tried bringing in our development talent to see if that would help in terms of some type of audience, but it just wasn't enough, and ultimately, we had hoped to be back in arenas in the fall. But when we realized that wasn't going to happen, we doubled down and invested with a new partner called the Famous Group, and we now have nearly 1,000 virtual fans." So obviously taking the crowds out of WWE events just destroyed everything, especially during those first few weeks in March where WWE wasn't ready for this all to happen. WWE had no competition. They were the only form of live entertainment that was left on the air during the early months of 2020, but ratings still collapsed because it wasn't the same product without the fans. She also explained the reasoning behind all those sudden NXT call-ups that we saw earlier this year as well. WWE was just trying anything to create a spark, but nothing was really working until the ThunderDome came into play. When WWE realized that being back into arenas in fall was unrealistic, they invested in what we're seeing now with the ThunderDome. Of course, the ThunderDome is on the move right now to another venue, but the concept and the idea is staying the same. You can say that WWE's investment in the ThunderDome was a great investment because obviously we still don't know when they'll be allowed back into arenas. We're looking at mid-2021 now, so even if they use the ThunderDome setup for another 4 to 5 months, it was still a great call and a great investment to spark some sort of normalcy with their product. We see thousands of fans' faces on the screens just like how we were used to seeing pre-2020. We even have WWE piping in crowd noises and chants to really make us feel like we're watching a real WWE show. The circumstances are terrible, and obviously everyone wishes that we can have real fans back in attendance. But according to new reports, this is a dream come true for WWE executives. For the first time in basically forever, WWE is in full control over the show and the fans' reactions. They no longer have to fear how a certain live crowd is going to react to a superstar or a match because all the control to the sounds is in their own hands. They can decide who gets fully booed and who gets cheered. Not to mention that the live and virtual ThunderDome fans are also instructed on who to boo and who to cheer for as well. The virtual fans have an instructor that's telling them when to boo, when to put the thumbs down, when to clap. You combine that with WWE pumping in whatever crowd noise they want, and it's literally the perfect show in WWE's eyes because nothing is out of their control. They literally control every aspect of the show. So it's everything they ever wanted. But what are your thoughts on today's wrestling news? Leave your comments. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.